Does that break your heart? Or do you just think, meh, move with the times? Hi guys, it's ASBYT and this is the POCO F3. It has just launched today. We're going to do a very quick first look, talk about the specs, talk about some of the actual features, and then I will of course go into a full review very, very soon. But if you want all of the latest and greatest information, then make sure you follow along today. Let's do this. Oh, and if you love everything tech, make sure you're subscribed so you know when I post. Right, so POCO made a massive name for themselves being a kind of flagship killer. Now we're on to the third edition. Can they deliver again? Right, so let's start with the display. It's AMOLED, it's Full HD Plus, and it has a 120Hz refresh rate, and it's HDR10 Plus as well. And I believe it goes up to around 1300 nits in terms of peak brightness. So that is really, really more than acceptable in terms of outdoor use. You do see phones now with 144Hz and 165Hz, like the Red Magic 6 that I've unboxed the other day, but 120Hz is more than enough currently right now, in my opinion. Really nice and smooth, scrolling through all your social media, etc. There is a slightly larger bottom bezel than the rest of the display, but all in all, it looks pretty bezel-less, other than the punch hole cutout that, as you can see, up there. And that is housing a 20 megapixel front sensor. And I'll do a quick snap for the gram for you. And that there is what you might be expecting if you were to purchase. I mean, you wouldn't be expecting that face, granted, but you'd expect that sort of performance. You may also notice there is a tiny little speaker at the top there. It does have stereo speakers as well. While we're on cameras, let's jump to the reverse. But before we get to that, look at that lovely pearl-esque looking rear panel. Frosted, looks really, really premium, something that previous POCO devices have been potentially questioned in terms of that build quality. This looks and feels really, really nice. The camera array at the top left-hand side looks quite similar actually to the Xiaomi Mi 11 that I reviewed. Definitely got some design ideas from there, but POCO is kind of ish under the Xiaomi umbrella, or at least used to be, so certainly there will be design ideas that they will share. The camera setup consists of a 48 megapixel primary sensor, an 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a 5 megapixel macro. In terms of video, we have a max of 4K at 30 frames a second, so no 8K and no high frame rate as well, the sort of 120 frames per second that we have seen recently on recent devices. Recently, how many times do you want to say recently? Recently, but still, for most people, 4K, good. 30 frames a second, more than acceptable unless you're doing high sort of action speed shots. All in all, a fairly well-rounded camera array in first impressions. Obviously, full review will tell you how good it actually performs in real world use. Up here, we have our volume rocker up and down and our fingerprint scanner here on the power button. This is something we have seen, but it is really responsive, pretty impressive. I'll just give you a quick showcase. And at the bottom, we have our Type-C charging port, our second speaker, stereo speakers like I mentioned earlier, and of course our SIM card port here. In terms of battery, we have a 4520 mAh cell, which is, you know, more than acceptable. And we also have 33 watts fast charging. I believe it's anywhere from 0 to 100% in just over 50 minutes. So not the fastest on the market again, but really, really respectable. And if you wanted to pick this phone up, you will be able to get it, I believe, in 3 different colors. Arctic White, which of course is this one here. We also have Night Black and Deep Ocean Blue. They are the advised colors early doors prior to launch. This may change at launch, they may add a couple more, they may change the name slightly, but this is what we know beforehand. Now the POCO F3 is running Android 11 with MIUI 12 over the top in terms of software, and in terms of the main hardware, we have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 870 chipset. It is 5G, it's not quite as powerful as the highest end flagship 888, it's more similar to the 865 Plus from last year, the last year's flagship. We believe the 888 will come on a Pro variant of this. Don't quote me on that, but that is what is expected. So still great performance, but it is going to be cheaper for you to buy because it's cheaper for them to manufacture. Max of 8GB of RAM and 256GB of internal storage. It is UFS 3.1. There is no micro SD card slot. So that may be a deal breaker for some of you, and there is no headphone jack as well. So the headphone jack and the micro SD card slot seem to be sort of RIPing their way out of the phone industry. Let me know how you feel about that. Does that break your heart? or do you just think, meh, move with the times? Let me know in the comments. Like I said, very, very quick first look video. If you want more, I will be doing a full review very, very soon. Make sure you're subbed for that. It is going to be a hoot. It's definitely not. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it and found it helpful. And I'll see you in the next video. Very quick today. Says ASBYT. Peace out.
Do just what you want.